And we're back once again with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. And I'll tell you what, you'll forgive me for laughing, but this has become one of the greatest, I guess, most well-known meme properties right now on the internet. One of the most well-known controversial subjects, not named coronavirus, right now on the internet. And that is the Netflix docuseries entitled Tiger King: Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. I almost feel like I should go ahead and, be in the announcer's voice for like the monster truck rally on the weekend. Murder, Mayhem, and Madness, 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 this weekend on Netflix. But I'll tell you what, it's something that everybody is talking about that is watching the series. It's something that I guess, and I said it best to this person right here on his great show, which you got to check out right now after our show. That is the Open Mic Podcast. And here with me today to talk about it is Brett Allan. And Brett, just want to thank you so much for being part of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be here. It's a stretch to call it a docuseries, to be honest. But
technically you have to categorize it as such.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, it's definitely something, that's for sure. But I, like all of America, we're stuck at home and found out we're going to be at home for even longer now. So I literally watched it in a day, which is pretty sad for me.
Well, as I said on your show, some of the advanced words that were coming out was, I think you said it right, a train wreck. I called it a car crash. And as I was talking about it with my co-host Josh, because he hadn't seen it yet, and it's on his list of things to do, and so many things to do while you're, staying at home. You're not quarantined, but you kind of are quarantined at this point in time. And it is kind of like a car crash. I mean, you drive by a car crash, and you really shouldn't be looking at it, but you can't help but look at it. You can't help but watch it. And sometimes you as a human being can't help but type of rate it as far as, oh my gosh, that's a big crash. Oh my gosh, that looks like it's something really scary. Or, oh my gosh, that's just a little fender bender. Why are they tying up so much traffic? You almost have a tendency to rate the type of accidents when you drive by and you're watching it when you shouldn't be really watching it in the first place. And that reminds me a lot of what we're seeing when you sit through all the episodes of this docuseries Tiger King. And it is something that has to be seen to be believed. I think it's probably the best way you can put it.
Right. And the interesting thing is like those animal preserves are definitely real. We have one similarly here in the Bay Area. It's like, I don't know, they call it, I don't know, the name is escaping me. It's like a safari type thing, and they have all kinds of different animals, and they have tigers. I mean, we have Marine World, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom here. They have tigers and panthers that are in captivity. So, but I will have to say, I find this thing so interesting. I was just mesmerized completely watching it, to be honest with you. Like, I saw it showed up in my screen, #1 most watched show on Netflix, and I was like, I have to check this out. This was before I even started seeing any of the memes on Facebook. And so I watched it, and I was like, is there more of this? I hope. And unbelievable. I think it's something else. I don't even know how to put words to it, quite honestly. I agree with you. You have to see it to understand it. The memes are all over Facebook, Carol Baskins and Larry or Joe Exotic, Doc Antio. I mean, it's just unreal how crazy this is. And I think it's rather ironic that they released it at such a time where they knew that everybody literally was going to be stuck at home, caged up, no pun intended, and are stuck watching the show.
It's amazing for not exactly all the right reasons. Let me give everybody out there, if you haven't heard of Tiger King, and if you're stuck at home on the internet, you probably know what Tiger King is by now. But Tiger King basically essentially details and outlines the story of the lives of individuals that take care of I want to say like a tiger preservationist, tiger collectors.
Basically, yeah, like something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And the battle between one faction and another. And it got to the point where the head of one faction, led by wannabe governor, wannabe president, wannabe country singer, who didn't actually sing his own country songs, but that's another issue entirely, nicknamed Joe Exotic. Actually, he wanted to be a polygamist, but he actually did that right because he was married to several men. And him being eventually ultimately accused and taken to court and sentenced and now serving time for trying to hire a hitman to kill a rival activist who herself has a lot of issues going on, including the fact that the disappearance of her previous husband is now being brought up again by sheriffs, that are in that county at this point in time. They're actually bringing up that old case again to make sure everything's on the up and up. Allegedly. How crazy is that?
I know. It's unbelievable, to be honest. The fact that somebody would go to such efforts to go get rid of somebody, I don't know. My personal opinion, I think she did it. I don't know. You can edit that out if you want to. But I think she's guilty.
I don't think you're the only person to say that. I know Cardi B is on the bandwagon. So, yeah, it's looking very fishy for everyone that's related to the show. I should say tigery at this point.
Yeah, everybody's a little cagey about this whole thing. And I honestly wish there would have been more episodes. But, the thing, too, besides those two in particular, I think all the outliers, the other characters or other people that they interview as well, I find just equally as mesmerizing than the two main folks, Joe and Carol. I think that all of Joe's workers that he hired, I find to be super interesting. All Carol's workers, Doc Antiel, his whole crew. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that is unique about all of us, they're all doing the same thing. Like none of them are doing anything different than what the other is doing. You know what I'm saying? So they're all doing it. However, one of them just thinks that they are doing it better than the other. And had he not, put a hit out on her and tried to have her killed, he would probably still be in operation today. It's funny. I have a friend, Joe Pardo, who does a podcast, and he kind of has had fun with this on Facebook. Where are we streaming at right now? Are we live on?
We're live on YouTube, just to let you know.
Okay. So yeah, if you watch the replay of this later, it's funny. But you can actually contact him in jail. You can send him letters. He's taking interview requests apparently. So hey, if you're looking for somebody that you want to interview on your show, then he's your guy. I don't know. Anyway, it's
going to get you ratings, but it's probably going to get you something that you might not expect as well.
Yeah, it might get you unwanted attention, so to speak.
But it is something that's very interesting in so many different ways, because you see, as you go through each episode, so many different things attached to it, as far as, like I said before, his so-called quote-unquote country music career, his run for governor, his run for president, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the unfortunate incidents as far as the animals themselves, some of which were, suspect as far as the treatment and handling of them. There's some issues there. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal even makes a brief cameo in the actual docuseries, and now is saying to everybody he doesn't want anything else to do with this at this point in time, because he doesn't want to be associated with it. He's just, he just likes tigers. And I can't say I blame him, being that he graduated from, actually went to Louisiana State University. But I want to ask you, I mean, watching through the series, were you first enjoying it? Were you first entranced by it? Or were you just saying to yourself, why am I watching this in the first place?
Well, I was intrigued by it, honestly. It seemed interesting. And, given this time that we're in, there's just a lot of time on our hands. and we have a lot of things to do. So, or not a lot of things to do, but watch television, right? So I was mesmerized by it. I started watching the first episode and I was like, well, let me back up. So there was two things I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch season 3 of Ozark, and I wanted to watch this. And I'm like, well, let me save Ozark. I'll watch this first. I can burn through this really quick. Kind of find out I burnt through them both extremely quick. Not to go too far off topic on Ozark, which is an amazing show, by the way. So anyway, I was mesmerized, and then I'm kind of like, why am I watching this? I don't understand why I'm watching this. And then before I knew it, it was over. But it's just, I tell you, out of all these type of docuseries that Netflix has done, Making a Murderer, so on and so on, I think this one by far is the most interesting that they have released. And then, of course, towards the end, I'm like, why am I still watching this? This is really
It gets
dumb.
a little muddled at the end, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, I agree. It just kind of gets ridiculous, especially when they start getting into the part about, the legalities of everything.
Yeah, it gets into the court cases and everybody has to testify and all
Yeah,
that.
I thought that was like, I could see why they tried to do that. But honestly, in my opinion, it was very sensationalized. I think there's three sides to every story. I think we got a mix of truth and a mix of, these types of shows. I've interviewed a lot of people who are on reality shows and these types of things. And so what you see is not always necessarily sewed together perfectly. There's things that are kind of mixed and matched, but at the end of the day, I think they did a good job of kind of informing. Did you ever see that Fire Festival one too that was on Netflix as
Yeah,
well?
the Fire Festival is good. I will tell you the best docuseries I have seen this year and the best docuseries I've seen in quite some time is McMillions. That's on
Let's see,
HBO.
I haven't seen that yet. We talked about that the last time.
Yeah, that is something I think that over its course tells a great narrative, doesn't get kind of bogged down by its own the weight of its own subject matter, which I think at times Tiger King does.
Exactly, yeah.
But this McMillions is really good overall. It tells a nice, even narrative overall. But then, like you said, with the sensationalism and with all the stuff going on, with all the different eccentricities, all the different characters, because, like you said, it's not just about Joe Exotic and the person that he was battling against. It's about all the different characters, all the different husbands, all the different caretakers, all the different sideshow people as well, help building this story. And that's why people are so interested by it, not just because Joe Exotic, it's because of the entire encompassing group as a whole, because everybody seems to have a different story, and everybody seems to have a story that people are wanting to take time and investing into.
Yeah, and the other part too that I found just kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say boring, but there was just like, okay, I can't think of his name. He winds up, the one that was like allegedly a millionaire who, had the house in Vegas and rented it and then was doing all these other shady things. I thought that was a little bit kind of too much. I was like, okay, this guy's been swindled once, twice. Now he's being swindled a third time or so by another alleged investor. And I was like, ugh, okay, this is kind of becoming a bit much. But, I sat and watched it just like everybody else did. So, I can't complain too much. But
it's
yeah,
going to be heading to a Hollywood film at some point in time, because there's so many stars already fighting to play the role of Joe Exotic, from Channing Tatum to Edward Norton to so many others that have been fighting for it at this point in time. It's definitely got Hollywood written all over it.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be, as soon as life goes back to normal and we can start doing things, definitely this is going to be a blockbuster, a popcorn film for sure. I mean, there's just too much there to not address it in that way for sure.
Well, before we go ahead and get a description of your great show that I have had the honor of being a part of, and that you've had many great guests on the Open Mic podcast, I want to go ahead and ask you this. The first basic and last basic questions I think that you need to ask yourself before you watch the show and at the end of the show. And that is the first question. People going into it or people thinking about watching it. If you're going to go ahead and give a recommendation, should you go ahead, are you telling people to go ahead and this is something that you need to watch? I'm telling people, yeah, I think it's something right now because of, like you said, all the time that we have on our hands. It's something to check out, but you do want to take everything with a grain of salt. But I want to hear your thoughts. First off, is this something you're going to go ahead and recommend if somebody's asking you if, should they be interested in watching it?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a time sucker, but we have nothing but time on our hands right now. So if you have a few hours, it's entertaining. I wouldn't say not to watch it. I wouldn't go into it with, like these really super high expectations, but just enjoy it for what it is. It's another, I mean, I will say this, Netflix has this market cornered, monopolized for sure. HBO, Showtime, those guys used to be the ones for these types of things, and they still do good things too, like McMillions. But this, I think, yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. Absolutely.
I think it's definitely worth a watch, especially at this point in time. And plus, people love to people enjoy those car crash type of shows. They love those type of shows which are sensationalized. They love those little bits of true crime in there. It just seems to hit on all the right notes. And whether or not you think it's the best docuseries or not so best docuseries in the world, it is something I think that is a good enough watch. I think it's enjoyable enough to get through. Again, the last parts of it are kind of watered down under its own weight, but still there are parts of it throughout that are really enjoyable to watch, and some of it just makes you say, "Huh," just as far as that's concerned. So it's something that I think is something you have to watch just to say you crossed it off your bucket list. But the last thing I want to ask you is two things. Do you think he actually went ahead and it should be freed, like Cardi B is saying, starting a GoFund account and all that? And I think you asked the last one in regards to his rival, Carol Baskin, about her part in this and her past, about whether or not she did it. Do you think that will also come to fruition? People start looking at backgrounds, because we talked about the sheriff's department looking into that aspect again, but do you think everyone is guilty when it concerns all this cast of characters involved with Tiger King?
Well, my friend used to say the police only know what you tell them. So I think that, who knows? It's hard to say, quite honestly. Like, I could see, I mean, he did commit a crime. They proved that he did try to have her killed. As far as her, and did she feed her husband to the tigers? I don't know. We'll never know. But I think this will definitely be fodder for people to chew on for a long time. And I don't think it's over for either one of them. I think there is a good chance that he could get released. It's very possible, especially now with everything going on, that could be a heightened sense of urgency. But I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, my friend. We'll see. I'm interested to find out what happens, quite honestly. I'm finding myself researching this and Googling it more and more every single day because it's just so damn entertaining.
It is entertaining. You're so very much right on that. And I think a lot of people are. Google says thank you very much, because, yes, everybody is trying to find out more about the cast of characters of the Tiger King, whether it's Joe Exotic himself, Carol Baskin, whether it's Rich, whether it's Doc, whether it's, so many different players into this, mix that have been thrown in. It's just so funny that this whole thing goes on, this docuseries. Again, you have to watch it a little bit in tongue-in-cheek, but it is something that I think you can't put down once you start watching it. And that is a sign of a pretty good docuseries. Again, it is Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. It is now available on Netflix. If you get a chance, yes, check it out, just so you know what's going on, just so you can understand everything that's going on with all the memes and all the references on the internet and all that. Yes, it is Tiger King, and it's something there on Netflix that I think will not soon be forgotten.
Nope.
But before we head on out, my friend, you've got an awesome show, the Open Mic Podcast. So I want to go ahead and make sure everybody knows exactly what your show is all about, and why they should listen to it each time you drop a new episode of the Open Mic Podcast.
Well, thank you for the kind words, my friend. Likewise to you as well. Well, my show, we just talk to a lot of interesting people, celebrities, entrepreneurs, influencers, and the Open Mic Podcast, the concept is to get people to come on and talk about things that they may not normally talk about in an interview, or that they have not talked about before, or something that they are getting ready to release. It's just an opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. I've had some amazing guests, and I appreciate you checking it out, the Open Mic Podcast.show, and it's available everywhere you listen.
That's the Open Mic Podcast starring Brett Allan, because there's a few open mic podcasts out there, but you got to make sure you look for the one with Brett Allan on there.
Yes.
It's definitely the one to listen to out of all of them. You got to go ahead and check it out today. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, doesn't matter where you get it. It's there for you on all major podcast outlets. It's been a great time to listen to each and every episode. He's got some great interviews in there. He did one recently with a member of Broken Lizard, and that was something to behold, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Eric was great. He was a lot of fun, and it was very by chance. Like when you pick a guest, you just don't know. And with him, I just happened to email him, and he responded back instantly. And I think it was just due to the fact that all his travel had been canceled. He was working on some different films, nothing Broken Lizard related, but he was working on some things, and everything just came to a screeching halt. And he gladly obliged to come on. Super nice guy. And if you check out the episode, it was just something to behold. We talked about the history of Broken Lizard and also films that they made that are just as popular, Club Dread, Puddle Jumper, one of their first films, Slam and Salmon, movies they made long before Super Troopers came out. And he told an interesting story, if I could share it, if you don't mind. But it was interesting, the Super Troopers film, it was picked up at Sundance Film Festival is how they found out about it. And it was a midnight showing. It was the last film on the docket that they were showing that particular day. And it just took the audience by storm. They got a standing ovation, and Fox Searchlight picked it up instantly. And those guys, they just love to create. They've been friends since high school, college, all five of them. And we talked about the meow scene. That was fun to talk about. So it was cool. He's a great guy. Please check out that episode.
Absolutely. And check out all the great episodes today at the Open Mic Podcast with Brett Allan. Brett, it's been great talking to you, my friend, about one of the most out there subjects that we can talk about that's not named coronavirus, and that is Tiger King on Netflix. I cannot thank you for taking the time to watch it, taking the time to talk about it, and taking the time to go ahead and just express your feelings about it right here on the latest episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Go check it out, right meow.
Thanks again, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.